Greetings everyone, this is Vishakha Tripathi, Forensic Educator at Forensic Science Academy. Today, in this video, we are going to cover about the analysis of fingerprint patterns. So, how do we analyze the fingerprints? It is the three-level process. It involves the three major steps. The step 1 is the identification of the pattern, that is, whether the pattern is the loop, the whorl, or the arches. The step 2 is the identification of the secondary characteristics, that is, the minutiae. And the level 3, or we can say the final step, the most detailed step, is the last one, that is the poroscopy. Moving forward, so this fingerprint analysis consists of three levels, and these levels initially defined as three fundamental patterns by Sir Francis Galton, and the pattern types were the loops, whorls, and the arches. They are the level 1 detail, but the three distinct levels of detail in fingerprint analysis that form the basis for identification are now understood as level 1, that is the pattern identification, level 2, that is the minutiae identification, and level 3 is the pore and edge features. Let's discuss about all these levels. Coming to the level 1, so it is the broadest level of detail. It involves the general characteristics of the fingerprint, including the pattern type, that is, whether the pattern is the arc, the loop, or the whorl, and the overall flow of the ridges. What it is meant for? It is mainly used for initial classification and broad categorization of fingerprint. Even if you have the knowledge of level 1, you can easily filter out a lot of question samples, and it is going to help you in further analysis. Coming to the level 2, that is the minutiae identification. We also call the minutiae the Galton points because they are being given by the Sir Francis Galton. This level focuses on the small, specific details within the fingerprint, commonly known as the Galton characteristics or minutiae points. Few examples of the minutiae are the ridge endings, the bifurcations, or the ridge dots and the islands. Its main purpose is to establish the individuality and unique identification of a fingerprint. Coming to the last level, that is the pore and edge features. It is the most detailed level. It involves the dimensional attributes of the ridges. For example, it includes the shape, width, and path deviation of the ridges, as well as features like pores, creases, and scars. Its main purpose is to provide additional unique characteristics and permanent details that can be used for identification. If you are looking at your hand, first you will look for the pattern analysis. Whether the pattern is the arc, the loop, or the whorl. What are the arches, the loops, and the whorls are is already being discussed in the previous videos. You can already refer to those videos for that information. Right. Coming to the level 2, that is the minutiae description. For that, you have to have the clear-cut knowledge of the minutiae and their detailed classification. Then coming to the last, that is the pore or the edge features. These, the core and the delta, these are the most crucial fingerprint pattern. Without analyzing or locating these two patterns, you cannot clearly analyze the level 2 and level 3 of the fingerprint. So, let's discuss that what the core and delta is. The core is the central point around which the ridges of a fingerprint pattern swirl or loop. It is one of the key characteristics used to describe and classify fingerprint. The location and orientation of the core help defines the type of fingerprint pattern, such as arches, loops, or whorls. In a loop pattern, the core is typically located at one end of the loop, while in a whorl pattern, the core is more centrally located within the circular or spiral ridges. Coming to the delta, it is the triradius is another key reference point in fingerprint analysis. Why it is being called triradius? Because it is being diverged from its origin point, it is being diverged in the three direction, and you can clearly see the three ridges. So that's why we call it the triradius, because there is the presence of three radiuses, that is the three ridges from that particular point. It is a point at or near the center of a delta formation in ridge patterns. The delta is where three ridge patterns diverge or converge. It is particularly significant in whorl patterns where it helps determine the subtype of the whorl, that is, whether it is a plain whorl, the central pocket loop, or a double loop. In this figure, you can clearly see that what is the core and delta. Core is simply the dot. You can see here, this point. It is called core. It is simply the dot, and most importantly, it is located near the center in the whorls and in the loop at the starting point. And delta. Here you can see the delta. You can clearly see there is the ridges running in three different directions. That's why it is called the triradius. Sorry, mistakenly I have said that the core is being located at different locations in different patterns. That is right, but prominently it is being located in center portion only. So coming to the different types of patterns, the number one is the arch. These are present in 5% of total whorl population. These are the least found patterns, and you can hardly see them around you. Like if you look at your palm or your friends or your family members' palm, there is the least possibility of their pattern being arches, because they are the least found in the world's population. So what does this pattern looks like? In this, the ridges enter from one side and exit on the other. For example, if it is entering from the right side, it will exit on the left side. Coming to the loops, these are the most common patterns found in the population. You can see around 60 to 65 of world population consist of the loop patterns. These patterns has ridges entering on one side and exiting on the same. For example, if in the pattern of loop, if the ridge is entering from the left side, it will or it have to exit on the same side, that is on the left side. Coming to the last pattern, that is the whorl. It consists of circles, more than one loop, or a mixture of pattern type. Around 30 to 35% of world population is believed to have whorls in their fingerprint. These are the figures where you can clearly see how the arches, loops, or whorls look like. The arches are then subdivided in two parts, that is the plain arc and the tented arc. You can clearly see the ridges in the plain arc is simply entering from one side and they are exiting on the other side. What is the main difference between the plain and tented arc? Mainly the angle or the uplifting of the ridges. In the plain arc, you will barely see the upliftment as compared to the tented arc. The tented arc are more likely the mountains, or they are making the tents, but in plain arcs they are more likely the smooth domes, right? So this is the main difference between the plain and the tented arc. Coming to the loops, loops are majorly divided in two parts, that is the radial and ulnar. depending on the location of the two bones in our hand, that is the radial bone and the ulnar bone. As we all know that the radial bone is located towards our thumb and the ulnar bone located towards our little finger. Following the same, if the ridge is entering from the side of little finger and exiting on the same side, it is being called as the ulnar loop. And if the ridge is entering from the side of thumb and exiting on the same side, it is being called as the radial loop. Coming to the whorls, whorls are then subdivided in more than two parts. There are plain whorl, central pocket whorl, double loop whorl and accidental whorl. In the you can clearly see that plain whorl and central pocket whorl are seen to look alike, right? So the main difference is that there is two deltas in the whorl pattern, right? So if you draw a line between these two deltas, and if that line is touching the recurving ridges, then that is the plain whorl. And if that line does not touch the recurving lines, the line that is being drawn between the two deltas of the whorl, if it is not touching the recurving ridges, then that is the central pocket whorl. There is the only difference between the plain whorl and the central pocket whorl. Other than this, it looks alike, but it is not. That's why the name is being different. Coming to the third, that is the double loop whorl. In this you can clearly see there is ridges are running in two different directions simultaneously. They are making the two loops, one in the right direction, then the other is in the left direction. So they have two chords and they have two deltas. Coming to the accidental whorl, it is nothing but it is the combination of more than two patterns. It doesn't have the specific rules or specification for this pattern. It's simply the combination of two or more than two patterns. Let's talk about the difference between composite and accidental patterns of fingerprint. So, the key difference is that accidental patterns are specific, rare type of composite patterns defined as any pattern that doesn't fit the definition of other types, while composite patterns are a broader category for complex patterns containing combination of two or more different pattern types such as central pocket loop, twin loop, lateral pocket loop, and also including accidental prints. So, in conclusion, we can say that all accidental patterns are composite, but not all composite patterns are accidental. Here you can see the different minutiae characteristics. Number one is the ridge ending. Ridge ending is nothing but where the continuation of ridge stops. That part or that portion or that point is called the ridge ending. Coming to the next, that is the bifurcation, when the flow of one ridge is being diverging in two directions. Here you can see the simple or the single line is coming and then it is being bifurcated in two lines. So that is the bifurcation. Coming to the third pattern, that is the dot. There is the present of dot. It's simply understood. The dot is present clearly between two ridges and the island or the short ridge. So that is the difference between the dot and the island, the difference of the size. You can clearly see the difference in the size of the island and the dot. Coming to the third part, that is the lake. It is nothing but the enclosure, the two ridges or the one ridge coming from one direction, then it diverge in two direction, it encloses and then continuing in the same direction. That is called the lake, or we can say the enclosure. Then the hook or the spur, one ridge is going straight, but in between it is being added by one small ridge. Then the bridge, the two ridges are combined by one short ridge. The double bifurcation, that is one ridge coming and it is bifurcating in two parts, and the part that is being bifurcated is further being bifurcated in other two parts. Then come the trifurcation. Ridge is coming from one direction and it is being trifurcated. That is, the ridge is now running in three directions. The one direction it was coming from, the other is the downward, and the last one or the second one is the upward one. So there is three direction: the straight direction, the downward direction, and the upward direction. So that's why it is called the trifurcation. It is being divided in three parts. Then comes the opposed bifurcation. Bifurcation takes place in the opposite direction. It is called the opposed bifurcations. Coming to the last second, that is the ridge crossing. Ridges are coming from the two opposite direction and they are meeting and continuing their own direction. For example, there is one simple dot. The one is coming from the right and the one is coming from the left. They are being, meeting at this place, or we can say simply the ridges which makes the cross. One is running in the upward direction, second is running in the downward direction. If they are crossing each other and they are, making the cross sign, it is simply called the ridge crossing. Coming to the last one, that is the opposed bifurcation or the ridge ending. Here you can clearly see the bifurcation is ending along with the ridge. So here the two things are ending. Bifurcation is also ending and the ridge is also ending. That's why it is also called the bifurcation or the ridge ending. So that's all about this video. I hope you have already understood about the analysis and how we can identify the patterns, how we identify the minutiae, and how do we identify the poroscopy. So that's all about this video. If you like the video and if you want more videos, you can clearly and definitely like the video. So share this with your friends, and definitely you need to comment down that on what topics you want the upcoming videos. We will definitely do it for you all. Thank you everyone.